and thank you for joining me for today's process video. And today I'm documenting a picture of James on his brand new motorbike that he got for his birthday, which was 17th of June. It was a 125cc bike, for those of you who know about bikes. So he was able to get rid of his 50cc, which is restricted to 30 miles an hour, and get a slightly more powerful one. As a mum, it makes me very nervous, but he's a cautious boy, so I know that he's absolutely fine on it. So I've grabbed my coffee stain stamps from Hey Little Magpie, and I'm just using the largest ring there to create a couple of rings on the background. I'm using Black Soot Distress Oxide, and then I'm going in with the second ring down and overlapping those over the other ones. You can see I'm not being too careful applying the ink because I don't want this to be a really dark black. I just want sort of a grey in the background for this layer of mixed media. I'm going to add a few layers here. So now coming in with one of the splats and adding that in a few places on the page, and I will use second and third generation stamping with this stamp shortly, and then I'll bring in the final splat, which is in the centre of those coffee rings, and just add a couple of those around the page as well. So still working with this one, you can see there I'm starting to create some shadowing using it, and then this is where I switch it out for that last one. And I did it in the middle first because I wanted to use second generation stamping. I know that the photo is going to cover that, so that was the reason for that one. And now I'm going to add some watered down Distress Oxide to the background using a brayer. So you can see I've just added a tiny spritz of water to that ink, and then I'm just using the brayer to roll that up and down in a vertical line across all of this stamping. So that's the first layer of the first couple of layers of mixed media that I'm adding to the background. I'm then going to dig into my Vicki Boutin Discover and create some layers behind the photo. So first of all, this was just a scrap I had left and it was the perfect size. So just roughing up the edges with my fingernails, and then I'll come in with some other bits. I'm just checking that I'm happy with the mixed media and where the photo is going to sit. This piece is from the Papery pack. I knew I wasn't ever going to use it as a frame, so I'm just going to use that as a layer behind my photo, and also this notebook paper. And you can see that predominantly I'm going to be using black and white on this page. I do bring in a couple of other colours just as accents, but in the main it's going to be monochromatic. So just cutting a piece of this to add as a mat as well. This is great because it's got a grid on it, so I can just use my scissors and snip it out without having to faff about with trimmers. And then once that's layered on, I shall add that frame behind it. So once again, just distressing the edges of that paper, and then I can glue that down to the frame and also to that notebook paper. Once again, that's from the Papery pack from Discover and Create from Vicki Boutin. So I'm just adding some ATG tape to the corners of this frame. That's enough to hold it in place behind the photo. There we go. It just, I don't know what happened, it buckles a bit at the back, so I'm just going to sort that out in a second. And by just having the ATG on the corners, it was very easy to peel that up and then stick it back down. So that's the basis of the mat behind the photo. And now I've cut out some more dies using black cardstock, and this is the fractionated film reel die cut from Hey Little Magpie, as well as the bumpy border die. So that bumpy border I'm just going to lay it on the left hand side there, and I'm slowly starting to create a diagonal from top left to bottom right. So this is the first tiny bit of colour that I'm bringing in. That tag has got blue accents and also this little map piece of paper, which I just thought went nicely with the photo, so I'm going to add those two. And then that bird is a washi sticker, and I just thought it went really nicely with the feel of the page, so I will add that shortly. I'm just faffing about trying to work out exactly how to add these layers, and then once I'm happy with the positioning, I get them stuck down before I change my mind. So there we go, that's those two pieces down. Just using my T-square ruler just to check that that is straight. And then working out again how these fractionated film reels were going. So I was trying to pull that tag up, but thought better of it. So I'm just putting it up enough to tuck that film reel underneath. Just checking that I'm happy with the placement, and then the other two as well. And then I can glue those down using my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive. So just a couple of dots, and that will stay stuck in place. I think I've got some glue on my fingers because I keep accidentally moving these as I'm trying to push them into place. And here's the last one. And because they're different all the way round, I just want to make sure that I'm happy with the way that I put it on. So you can see me just turning it around a couple of times to check that I'm happy. So I didn't feel that that was quite straight, so I was just moving that and then adding some glue, because it was only glued down by the tag at that point. So again, T-scale ruler just to check that it is straight, and managed to knock that off. Honestly, I had an idea and I was trying to rush to get it down before I forgot, and that's when everything starts to go wrong, isn't it, when you rush? So I had this tiny piece of this hexagon die cut left, the hexagon grid die that we sell at Haylift Magpie, and I just thought that would work nicely tucked onto the left hand side of the photo, just for another bit of added interest really. And so I'm just tucking that under there, and so that's another layer on that background. That works quite nicely. And then I pulled out again from the washi stickers this title that says Things to Remember, and I just thought that was quite apt as it was his birthday, and he managed to upgrade to the next size of bike. So just getting that stuck down, and then this little birdie. Now I put him on top of the fractionated film reel at first, but decided that he'd be better inside. So I once it's stuck down, I just peel it up and move it down a little bit. And I just think that looks much better there. And these washi stickers are great. They layer over die cuts really nicely. So think about bringing in this flare badge. It's one of our Hey Little Magpie fabric flares, but it doesn't end up staying there because there are too many other bits that I want to add. So I did die cut this from our, I think they're Travel Arrows, and it says Rome. So I'm just matting it onto some white cardstock. I don't want an edge around the black, but I did want the letters to remain white because I'm overlapping it over the photo. I just wanted those letters to stay white. So I'm just going to pop that down there on the photo, still messing around with that flare badge. I do like the green that it introduces because we've got the green of the title, but it just didn't quite work for me. And I do find another way of bringing that green in shortly. So just sticking that bumpy border down. You saw I cut a little bit off the end. It was just a tiny bit too long for me, but I was happy with that. And then bringing in these two tabs. And I will, of course, on the craft tab, add my date there. And then these are some die cut splats from the splats die that we sell at Hey Little Magpie that I've designed. And that just acts as a really nice extra layer on that mixed media background. They're very similar to the splats on the coffee ring stamp. So it's just bringing in that darker colour and a bit of texture because I've used cardstock. So now those are all down, I can add my tabs and then see what else I can bring in. So I'm going to come in with the puffy stickers from Discover and Create, and there are some cute little ladybirds on there. So I'm going to add a ladybird to that top tab, and then another one down at the bottom and in amongst the splats on the left hand side. I've also added a little star there at the top and at the bottom. And they're just adding a bit of interest about the page. Now I want to add a ribbon loop, so I'm going to add that. I think about adding it at the top there, but I decided to add it just above that Rome word there. So just get that glued down. And then I bring in one of these lovely hearts, gingham hearts that we sell at Hey Little Magpie. So just adding that, that's bringing a bit more green into that bottom, and one of the JD 3D print hearts, just as another layer. And because that's not enough hearts, I will bring a suede one into the top shortly as well. But now I'm going to add my journaling, which goes underneath the title, and it's just talking about the fact that he got his new bike. So I'm going to stamp the date on some scrap white cardstock and put that on top of that craft tab. This is just a great way for me to find the date quickly on my layouts because it tends to be on this tab at the top or on the side of the photo. So now some twine to add to my tag. I just pull out, I think this is purple actually, it's a really, really dark purple, it's almost black, so it works nicely with this layout. And I'm just going to staple that into place using my Tim Holtz tiny attacher. There we go. And then I'll just manipulate those ends and trim off the excess. Happy with that? And then here's that suede heart that I mentioned. It's the same craft colour as that tab, so it works really nicely up there. And then I decided I wanted to bring the green into the left-hand side. I liked that bumpy border, but I felt that it was a bit disjointed from the rest of the layout. So I decided to add 3 long stitches on top of this bumpy border, so it brings that green in and also just adds a little bit extra to that border that looks like it's just been abandoned up there. So just pulling it through, and then I shall add some tape at the back to keep the end in place. So there's the first stitch done, and I punch the holes for each stitch once I've stitched the first stitch. I just find that easier to visualise how I want the stitches to be. So I did the stitch that goes on the right hand side, and then I'm adding another one through the middle. And that's that, and I love the green that adds. So I've used 3 strands of a 6-stranded embroidery thread there to add that. And finally, in the papery pack, there are loads of these word strips, and this one says, "Enjoy where you are now," and that's the perfect sentiment for this photo of James on his 17th birthday. So I'm just sticking that down there, and that's the layout done. Thank you so much for joining me. I really hope you've enjoyed this, and I provided some inspiration to use Vicky Boutin's Discover and Create. See you soon. Bye.